Welcome, everybody, to episode 8 of the Next Gen Cattle Podcast. This week, we're really excited to have Katie Serhienko on. Katie's no stranger by any means to the purebred cattle industry, and as you listen to the podcast, we get to learn a little bit about her steer days in Calgary as well, and kind of how the operation goes. We talk judging, we talk bucket list items, and about everything in between, so hope y'all enjoy.
And our supreme champion female is our national champion, Charlet. I feel the power of Tim Bullock.
She's not just a lady for a day, she's lady for life. Wheatland Lady 211H and Wheatland Bull 4170.
They've done it again! Our grand champion, supreme champion, Wheatland Cattle. Did you feel the tremor? KR Tremor 7015L from KR Land and Cattle and KFC Farms, your Charlet Supreme Champion Bull 2025.
Welcome to the Next Gen Cattle Podcast.
If you're a cattle producer who understands that stress, environment, and transition directly impact performance, this will resonate. We're Kim and Jackie from Grow Your Life, where we support producers behind the scenes because regulated humans make clear decisions that protect the bottom line. We also teach AIM, the Animal Intuitive Method, a practical body-based system used with cattle herds to help animals settle, realign, and return to function during calving, weaning, hauling, breeding, and change. When people and animals are regulated, losses go down and outcomes improve. Find us at Grow Your Life with Kim and Jackie on Apple and Spotify and at aimhealing.ca.
Well, welcome, everybody, to episode 8 of the Next Gen Cattle Podcast. This week, we're really excited to have Katie Serhienko on. So welcome, Katie.
Hey, Mitch. Happy to be here.
Just maybe start, Katie, just kind of talk about growing up and the operation at home and how you're involved.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess kind of have grown up in it being a lifer. My dad kind of grew up more doing the Hereford deal. He did like a custom fitting business growing up. He got to travel around and see a lot of stuff growing up. He got to work quite a bit in the States, in Australia. My mom and her entire family have deep roots in the Charlet business for sure. Grew up going to quite a bit of shows that way. And when my mom and dad got together, they started out their Charlet herd. So yeah, I kind of grew up in the Charlet business. More so chasing the steer thing when I was younger. Yeah, we always definitely had a steer around in the barn getting ready, which is probably some of my favorite memories doing the cattle thing is rinsing and blowing at nights, getting them ready for things like Calgary and quite a few jackpot shows. So that's kind of what got the bug going for me. And then after being in college and university, kind of turned the focus more to the purebred thing for sure. So kind of spent a few years going to school, coming back to the farm, and then kind of found my footing doing the catalog deal and being home as much as I can, calving, getting things ready for fall shows. So that's kind of the brief history of SVY.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys had quite a bit of success too with the steers, right? I know it was 2 or 3 years ago you guys had a few in top 5, I think, right?
more than 2 or 3 years ago, but yeah, I'm not going to date myself by any means, but I did. One of my favorite wins definitely was winning the Calgary Stampede Steer Show. I'm not going to say what year by any means, but but yeah, me and my sister both got to be in the top 5 together, which was definitely a pretty neat moment doing that. Yeah. And then in more recent times, Emily's steer came from us, actually, probably out of one of my favorite cows on the place. If anyone saw my Instagram, probably 5-6 years ago, they'd know a cow by the name of SC Bay. She raised that steer, so that was definitely a pretty cool moment. And yeah, we have a few clubby cows still around raising steers, but in the last couple of years, they only seem to want to give heifers. But yeah.
There you go. And were those ones that you won with at Calgary, were they home raised or did you guys buy them?
No, we bought those. Yeah,
Nice.
out of the States.
What I guess going with that, kind of, what do you think your biggest win would be, I guess, in terms of the purebred and the steer deal? I know you guys have had quite a bit of success on both sides of it. So.
Yeah, I mean, every win I think is a favorite for different reasons, right? And the steer thing would definitely be the Calgary win. When I won that with a steer by the name of Vince, it was something we had been chasing for a really, really long time. And I know I had listened to Cord's past podcast, and he said, he was like, when you go to those shows, you're gonna be more disappointed than you are happy, and that's one of those shows where we felt that for sure. So to finally have kind of the stars align and have the right steer to win that deal was definitely a pretty special feeling. On the purebred side of things, I guess it's kind of a two answer to that. One of my favorite moments was there was a cow by the name of SVY Starstruck 559. She won Agribition Supreme in, I believe it was 2010. And the neat story with her is the calf at side SVY Starstruck 8X actually went on to win the Supreme in 2012. So that was a pretty neat tandem win for sure. And I was really, really young at the time. So it was kind of you understood enough of it to know it was a big deal, but maybe not fully grasping what exactly it meant. But that was probably the first moment I realized, like, the cow thing is pretty cool and maybe it's something I want to stick with.
Yeah, for sure. And there's probably not, there probably would only be a handful of females that have done that, or would that be the only pair?
No. I know Miller Wilson did it. I might need to fact check myself here, but I believe DMM International was outside. Yeah.
For sure. And I know you
but definitely one of the few.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been doing quite a bit of judging too now. So maybe talk about kind of how you got your start with the judging deal. I know probably with Dennis as a father, I'm sure it was pretty a pretty prominent thing growing up.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where I always got to watch him judge growing up. Kind of got to be ringside and watch him, and did it enough in 4-H, but I guess never really considered it. I don't want to say I never really took it seriously, because you always did when you were asked, but it was never something I saw as maybe a big focus for myself. I got to do a few
school or anything, right?
No, I never did. No. If I was looking back, that's something I maybe wish I would have done. But no, throughout college, I got asked to do a couple 4-H shows out in BC, and just a couple more little local home raised things that I got to go out and do, which was pretty neat for sure. And actually, one of the ones that sticks out to me is I actually got to judge the Saskatoon 4-H Achievement Day with my uncle Cam Sparrow. And the reason that one's pretty special to me is Cam and my dad actually judged a few shows together back in the day, and that's where Cam, I don't want to say got his start by any means, because he was pretty established beforehand, but that's kind of where he maybe began his judging career. So then it was pretty neat to associate judge for him at that moment. And so then I guess for shows that I got to do on my own, the first one I ever did, it's one I still stick by the cattle I used and the experience I had. It's one I'm definitely proud of, but the first one I ever did, there was definitely a few things where I walked away from it being like, oh, I maybe could have done this differently or that differently. And most of them were more surrounding like self-confidence. So, walked away from that realizing that, okay, I'm really proud of what I did here. But definitely some things I want to work on. So kind of talked to Dad and said, this is definitely something I want to pursue. So he kind of took me under his wing a little bit, and we got to judge some shows together and got to learn from the best, I would say, which has been pretty neat.
For sure. And maybe too, like, just touch on that, like, kind of, obviously I know even with Sam and I have got the chance to judge a few shows together, and I think you kind of, when it's your spouse, you kind of work a little bit differently in that sense, but kind of maybe some of the like challenges, like obviously you and Dennis probably have a similar eye for cattle, but maybe like what would be some of the challenges you'd kind of face with judging with your dad?
Yeah, for sure. I do think we see things quite similarly, so I wouldn't say there's a lot of challenges, but I know the first few that I did, he's a pretty tough guy to try to talk after. He can just, like, the way he's able to describe cattle is something I definitely admire and look up to. So to try to take the mic after him and talk your own class the first couple times was definitely intimidating. But I like to think that it definitely made me better, the pressure of it. But I would say would be the biggest challenge. And any time we maybe see things a little differently, it's definitely interesting to be able to talk it out and explain why we see them differently. Because I don't think in every instance I'm right, he's wrong, or he's right, I'm wrong, right? It's being able to both describe what we see and come to a conclusion that way.
Yeah, and I think that's the best part too, right? I think both you're super talented in the judging thing and a lot of things, but I think with that, when you can talk about it and, like you mentioned something and then they look and they're like, oh yeah, like, I never really noticed that or never really thought about that, right? I think it's
sure.
Fun, with Sam, it's I enjoy it for sure, kind of bouncing ideas off each other, and there's still a few moments now where you're like, man, I still don't agree when you're done talking, but
yeah,
I think that's all part of it, and you just kind of go with it, and yeah, it's exciting.
As long as totally, as long as you're not coming to fisticuffs in the ring, you must be doing something right.
Exactly. What do you think the favorite show is that you've had the opportunity to judge so far?
Yeah, I think this one kind of harkens back to your favorite wins, right? That they're all different for different reasons. But I would say the favorite that I've ever gotten to do is probably the Farm Fair Supreme. It was a pretty unique experience seeing cattle of that caliber, of every single breed, parade past you, and being able to walk out into that ring was definitely a surreal one for sure. And then me and Dad actually together got to do the National Speckle Park show out at the Royal, which was definitely one that sticks out to me just because I've never gotten to see the Toronto show. So to be able to see that ring and the barns at the back was definitely a one that sticks out to me for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Supreme too, right? I think, having the privilege, like for you being in that ring before and kind of walking through on that side of things and then getting on the flip side of it and, getting to judge it, I think that puts a whole different perspective on all of it too, right? And kind of.
Absolutely. It's when you're out in Supreme, you maybe question some things and whatever, but to be on the other side of it and have that pressure and to be able to see all those cattle going up against each other, it definitely lends a different perspective to it for sure. Yeah. And getting the phone call to be asked to judge that show is definitely something I'll never forget, and was definitely a huge honor that I'll remember for a very long time.
Oh, for sure. And especially, I think, even more so getting everyone, oh, Dennis is judging Supreme. And then everyone's standing there, and it's like, that is awesome. And of course, like, Dennis, being Dennis, love the guy to death, doesn't clue into it, like, is not, like, you walk up, hey, Dennis, how's it going? Oh, good. Yeah, having a great day here. Yeah. And everyone's like, it's Dennis. It's got to be Dennis. It's got to be Dennis. And then Katie walks out, and it's like, well, were we all wrong?
Absolutely. That was, another one of my favorite memories too, right? Because it was funny the way that worked. I actually got to do the showmanship the morning of on the side of the ring for the junior show, and the amount of people that came up to me, "Hey, Katie, is your dad here?" I'm like, well, he might be. I don't know. You never know when he'll pop up.
Just playing into all the games for sure.
Oh, absolutely. If you're not having fun, I mean, come on.
Situation. What's if you were to give your younger self some advice, what do you think that would be?
Don't get that bowl cut when you're 14 years old would probably be my first one. But more on the livestock side of things, I think to just not be afraid to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and don't expect to be an expert at everything the first time you do it. The first time you ever hold a set of clippers, you're probably not going to rival the best at agribition. The first time you pull a leg, it probably won't be the greatest one you've ever seen, but stick with it, and don't be intimidated by the people around you to ask questions. I think I tend to be a little bit more on the shy and reserve side, so I'm kind of always comfortable to hang back. But I think if I could go back and tell 12, 13-year-old Katie, it would be to just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. The people in this industry are really great people and are always willing to take somebody in and teach them something for sure. So that would probably be my biggest one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think, and I guess if there is any younger people listening, I think it's in the industry, it's really cool that, somebody who, you've never met before, or you don't even know who they are, you can go to them and ask a question, and there'd be very few people in a barn that wouldn't answer that question, right? But even at Farm Fair this year, we were fitting on a heifer, and there's this younger kid standing there watching, and he's just like staring there, and his eyes are wide open. And I said, like, "Oh, like, have you ever seen it before?" He's like, "I've never seen someone clip a cow before." and he had cattle there, right? And for the rest of the 3 days after that, or 2 days after that, he was there every day, and he would walk by, and we would talk to him, and he had his 4-H steer there, and I think that's one really cool thing about this industry is that you can go ask those questions, and everyone's kind of there to teach you and show you as much as
it absolutely is there, and receptive to share a little bit of the knowledge. Actually, it's funny you say that. I was just on Facebook before we lined it up to do this podcast, and Braden House, who's a Charolais breeder out of Texas, actually had a Facebook post that a young girl sent him a handwritten message with a picture of her steer after a show he judged down there, and a thank you for coming out, and I believe it said at the end, I'm working really hard on improving with what you said I should maybe look at, which was definitely pretty cool to see on Facebook, that even if you don't think you're making an impact, there's always somebody watching, right? So
for sure. What do you think as a family at SVY kind of drives you guys to be successful?
Well, I think we're all pretty competitive by nature for sure, but definitely in more recent years to see the success that lots of juniors have been having with SVY genetics has definitely been pretty cool. The success Jackson Corner had out in Toronto and Louisville this year with Darlin was pretty fun to be able to watch. And then at home, Blanchette's, Kolonowski's, Chase Airy at HTA have all exhibited SVY genetics this year, and I think to be able to see the success that junior members can have with our genetics has definitely been a very, very big drive for sure.
For sure, yeah, and and I think in the Charolais deal, it's such a there's a lot of good cattle, but I think there's a few breeders that really stick out like sore thumbs, and you guys really definitely know how to get them white and put the touch on them. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, they're yellow every now and then, but we try our best for sure.
Exactly. Katie, if you had to make a Mount Rushmore with 3 legends in the cattle industry, who would it be?
Oof. So this was probably the toughest question you sent, but also probably the most fun. And I actually put it in my family's group chat just because I was curious what my mom and dad answers might be. So it was kind of neat to be able to talk that one out and maybe think of some names that are of an older generation than mine. But if it's boiling it down to my three, I would say number one, and to not be a homer with this, would be my grandpa Ted Serhienko. I think the impact that he's had on the industry as a whole is pretty neat. Everything from the fact that he was one of the first guys to bring a can of glue and a set of clippers to Canada is pretty neat. And then what he's done with his sale management business throughout Canada and the States, and the impact he's had on that breed as well as the Hereford breed as a whole is pretty cool. And one of the things I definitely value for sure, actually, one of the first shows I ever got to judge was out in Kamloops, BC, and it was a 4-H show and more of a local type of show at that point, and kind of people out there that I didn't really know me. It was more of a local thing, which was pretty cool. But an older gentleman actually tapped me on the shoulder, and he was like, "Oh, are you Ted's granddaughter?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." And he told me this big story about traveling through the Okanagan with my grandpa in, I believe it was the 80s, I want to say, and I wish I could remember his name, but it was one of those things that definitely reminds you that no matter where you are, you're always Ted's granddaughter. So that's that's definitely something I'm pretty proud of to be able to say. So yeah, he would be my number one for sure. And as he's maybe retired a little bit from the cattle business, the finger on the pulse that he has is pretty neat. I don't know somebody that watches more sales than he does throughout the year, and kind of knows what's always going on is pretty cool. Yeah. My second one for that would probably be Mark Kelly. So he runs a custom fitting business out of Texas, and growing up at Agribition, he always came up and helped out my family. And when I was young, I maybe didn't fully realize who he was. I guess he was always kind of that American that came up and talked weird, but then growing up, I realized exactly who Mark Kelly is, and to be able to see what he can do in terms of fitting is pretty neat. I remember one year at Agribition, kind of sitting outside the old stadium, clipping one of our heifers, and he's right-handed, but he's clipping this heifer with his left hand while talking on the phone, and is still carving out probably the best top that was seen at Agribition this year. And I remember Cody Ray LaFrance was working for him at the time, and he kind of walked over and he's shaking his head, videoing Mark, and I'm kind of looking at it in awe. Yeah, so to be able to see that, and the knowledge that when you think they're dry, you actually probably have another hour of blowing on this white cow until she's actually dry, was nailed into me for sure. And I guess later in life, after those kind of core Agribition memories as a kid with Mark were established, to see all the people that have gone down to the States and worked for him and have come back with so much talent has been pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
The people that he's taught.
Yeah, and Sam ended up there for, I guess,
did
like
she?
the winter, or like OKC, Denver, Fort Worth last year, and for Sam coming from like before she had met me, basically zero show knowledge at all, and she went down there and she comes back, and I'd be sitting there blowing on one, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm just blowing away." She's like, this is how it gets done now." And it's such a I think at any I think there especially there's a way to do it, and it's the way how they like it, and I think Sam fit in well there because she didn't have a lot of prior knowledge going too, so I think going there and learning kind of as good as you're gonna do it, I think.
Absolutely.
And then you said, and then coming back with that knowledge and bring it here and talking about it, and all those things that she talks about now, and I'm going down for a week this year, so it'll be really cool,
Oh, are you?
I've never, as bad as it sounds, I've never met Mark before, and it'll be really good, just to thank him, because for what he
Hmm.
Sam and all those families down there that Sam got to kind of help and hang out with. It's definitely something that I got to thank him for sure.
This actually sounds really calculated, but I actually didn't know Sam had went down to work for him or that you were going, but that's so awesome. He's
Yeah, and
yeah.
and when she told me just kind of the way her job was working, and and she said, like, I think I want to go, and and at first I was like, it's a lot, like, just so you know,
Yep.
like, it's not like here where it's like, we're gonna blow 4 or 5 and that's gonna be it,
Yep.
and she's like, oh, I want to do it, and I remember her calling me, it would have been like probably the first week or so, and like, obviously we talked every day, but I was kind of like,
Hmm.
so what do you think, like, how you like it? She's like it is awesome, like, it's the best, and she's not helping Mark this year, but just that. And he did talk about it, actually. I think when he was doing the commentary for the show in Basha, I think he talked about like how great it is to see that Canadians can come down there, and they learn,
Hmm.
even if they don't come back there, to see where they go, right? I think is really
Right.
cool. One thing that kind of stuck with me is as much as it sucks that they might come and then go somewhere else, but for him to see that, and for him to to value that is something really cool too, I think, just on its own, right? And to kind of be proud of, to say, like, and he'll always be the first guy that Sam went down to help, and for me, my first guy that
Hmm.
I went down to help in the States will always be the first guy, right? And I think it's something
Absolutely.
when you look back on, how far that everyone's come, and I think you always remember those people that kind of gave you like that first chance, right? And they didn't know, like, they didn't know Sam at all, right? And it was just another
Hmm.
Canadian coming down to help, and to treat her like family like that, and it's something very special for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And Mark, just personality wise, is one of the. I mean, I was super young when he was coming up, so just to be a kid and to be able to meet him and know that he has all the talent in the world, but is incredibly willing to share that, and incredibly easy to get along with, and not willing, and always willing to be the hardest worker in the room too, right? My mom always commented he was the first person to pick up a blower and the absolute last one to put it down whenever he was up with us, which definitely sticks with the guy for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I guess to conclude the question, my third would probably be Steve Yackley. I think it was 2 years ago now, me, my dad, and a good friend of ours from Australia, Harris Thompson, actually did a big tour of Canada and the States, stopping in at a couple different places, and one of those was the Transova outfit at Yackley Ranches, and got to meet Steve, and he was looking for somebody to build a program for him to be able to easily pull up the donors that are hosted at his place, and be able to pull them up quickly, because what he was working with at the time was a binder and paper, so it just got to be cumbersome to flip through. So when I was there touring around, he asked if I was able to do that. So got to build him a program to me and a good friend of mine got to build him a program to be able to pull that up, which was pretty neat to be able to do. But in doing that, I actually got to know Steve a little bit more, and know a little bit about his backstory and his accomplishments, and he is quite the resource of knowledge to be able to know. If you've ever been to Transova, it's basically the mecca of every donor that you've ever seen in a catalog is right there in the flesh to be able to tour through, and which is pretty neat for sure. But then Steve himself just gets them so ready, and is so meticulous in their care that there's been some donors there that have been hosted have gone on to have calves, and they themselves have gone on to shows and have won pretty major deals. So the care and the knowledge that man has is pretty amazing, and I'm very grateful to have gotten to know him a little bit more throughout the couple of years that I have. And to cheat on this question a little bit, because there's two more that I was thinking of. The two, I don't want to say honorable mentions because they deserve a lot more than that. But
That's okay.
yeah, the SVY Mount Rushmore is just a little bigger than most. But two that stick out to me are Corinne Gibson and Shannon Eaton. They're two people that I think from the cattle side of things and Cattle Sense and the business side of things are two people that I really admire their knowledge and their ability and who they are as people, for sure. And I look up to those two people quite a bit as well.
For sure. This is kind of I guess not really a new segment now that we've done it 3 or 4 times, but the host gets hosted. So if you have a question for me, I'll do the best I can to answer for you.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess it's kind of a 2-parter question. I was curious if you had to name, maybe not the number one, but maybe the most prominent thing on your bucket list, what would that be? And that's a 2-parter because I'm curious, one cattle related thing and then one completely non-cattle related thing.
For sure. The cattle thing, I think to have our own sale one day, to have like at our place, like to have a ring set up and put one through with an MVL tattoo, I think definitely would be up there. I think probably a close tie. It pretty cliche, but I think the Supreme deal, to have one in there would be super cool. And then non-cattle related, that's a tough one.
I know. That's how we really get to know somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing is like our whole life is so like cattle oriented, right? And
absolutely. If it helps you at all, mine is cage diving with sharks. And it has been for like the last 5 years.
That would be very cool. One thing, I've always kind of wanted to do is stick my foot in every ocean, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, I would say that. I think that was my goal, I don't know, a couple summers ago. I think the first summer I moved out here, I said I was going to stick my foot in at least a couple of oceans, and I've still yet to stick in one, so I guess we still got time.
Make the MVL mark coast to coast.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, we'll do some rapid fire questions here. Favorite candy?
Sour cherry blasters.
Oh, those are the best.
Oh, anything that'll make your mouth hurt after.
Yeah, those are. Actually, funny story, because those would be my favorite too. And we were in a gas station, and I'd been trying to like explain these to Sam for a while, and like they're not. At least I couldn't find them anywhere in Westlock, but I was explaining to them. And then one day she comes home with this bag. She's like, "I saw these, and like they look pretty good." And I was like, "Oh."
You do not know what you're about to experience.
They are the best for sure. Favorite restaurant to eat at?
So it's actually local to you, and so it'd be my biggest date night recommendation to you and Sam would be Cafe Amore in Edmonton. It's like one of the best pasta places you'll ever go to.
Oh, I think I saw that. That's where they do the pasta in the cheese block, I think, right?
I believe it is. Yeah.
Okay.
I've carb loaded every minor to major event in my life, so I can tell you it's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. What's your go-to karaoke song?
This one isn't rapid fire because I have a story, and it's the fact that when I said Mark Kelly had core agribition memories, the other one would definitely be Eric Smith rapping "Who Shot Ya," and past guest and friend of the pod Brady and Waylon Blacklock doing Old School T Swift is definitely one of those for karaoke in that Irish bar at Agribition. But if the Charlet Barn margaritas ever get to me enough that I'm up on stage doing karaoke, I need to be sent home. But I can tell you I'm a big car singer, and I'm in Olds right now getting ready for the White Light sale, and on my drive down here it was definitely a The Killers was prominent, and it was all these things that I've done is hot on my playlist right now. But my Spotify Wrap just came out, and my top 2 were old school Nickelback songs, so I don't know what that says about me.
Well, funny that you bring up Eric because when we were fitting on your Charlaine's and Agribition, he looks at me and he says, Mitch, like, we're pretty picky about our music. And I was like, oh, Eric, like, what do you like? And he says, just on Spotify, type in divorce dad bangers. And I said, like, really, Eric? Like, and yeah, Mitch, just do it. And the first song is like the first, 5 or 6 songs are Nickelback. And it just comes on and he just has that little grin on his face. And then
absolutely. That's awesome. That guy does definitely know how to set a vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm also a huge Swiftie, though, and going to the Taylor Swift concert in Europe with my sister is one of my highlight life moments for sure. And so she's usually queued up too.
For sure. What do you think your biggest pet peeve is at a cattle show?
Oh, blown breakers.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I think we're far enough out of Agribition where I can say it that our crew and McCord's were definitely breaker buddies, and it was 100% Serhienko's fault that they were blowing. Hopefully they're not listeners.
Yeah, that is a very good pet peeve. I think everyone. There's no worse feeling than like, especially when you all and there's like hoses everywhere and you're all blowing them, and it's like click and everyone kind of looks at each other and then walk back to the breaker box.
Absolutely. And even when it isn't your fault, it's never when things are going good that a breaker will blow. It's always when you're like one minor inconvenience away from a crash out that it'll decide to go.
Yeah, for sure. And the last one, what's your go-to footwear at a show?
Oh, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm an on-cloud girl.
There you go. I don't know. You got to try Hoka's. I'm telling you, you'll never go back.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I was a Keen guy for a long time, and then this summer when we were in Ontario visiting my parents, we stopped at one of those malls in Toronto, and I tried on the On Clouds, and I didn't find that comfy, and then I put Hoka's on, and I felt like I was walking on a cloud, so now I'm a Hoka guy.
Maybe I'll be converted. I was so mad though. I went to go get a new pair before Agribition. It was $200 for the pair with the good foam, and I'm like, I need to find an alternative to this because this is dumb.
Yeah, now the Hokas, they were $120 on clearance, so it was perfect.
Really? You're a deal hunter.
Exactly. And we'll round off. What's your favorite quote or phrase to live by?
The serious one is that growth doesn't come from comfort zones. The probably real one is that if you ain't first, you're last. And Shannon Eaton will know what I mean.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Katie. We really appreciate it. It was good to catch up, and we won't make it to Olds, but I'm sure we'll see you.
No, absolutely. It's been awesome to talk to you. We certainly appreciate your help as we go down the show road. So it was nice to catch up.